Your whole life can change in one moment, but it depends on what you do in that moment. Do you react or do you respond with power? Let me speak to the moment, the one that breaks people. The moment when your hands are shaking, your heart's racing. Someone said something, did something, crossed a line, and now you're heated. You're ready to walk away, ready to blow up, ready to quit, ready to do something just to feel like you're in control. And that's where most people lose. Not because the problem was too big, but because they didn't stop, they didn't think, they didn't zoom out and ask, what's this going to look like in 10 minutes? Will it still matter in 10 months? Will I regret this in 10 years? That's the 10-10-10 rule. Not just a decision tool, a lifeline. It's the difference between reaction and reputation, between impulse and impact, between surviving a storm and learning how to walk on water. If you learn this rule, if you live it, you won't just solve problems, you'll stop creating them. And that's where real power lies. Let's talk about it. What is the 10-10-10 rule? The 10-10-10 rule is a mental framework used to guide decision making with greater clarity and emotional intelligence. It's built around a simple but powerful question: how will I feel about this decision in 10 minutes, in 10 months, in 10 years? The purpose is to pause, reflect, and gain perspective. Often we make choices based on how we feel in the moment: fear, anger, excitement, or anxiety. These emotions can cloud judgment and lead to decisions we regret. This rule invites you to zoom out and consider the consequences over time. What seems urgent and overwhelming now may be insignificant with distance. Conversely, what feels small now may be life-altering in the long term. This rule doesn't make decisions for you. It gives you a lens through which to see clearly. When practiced consistently, it creates a buffer between emotion and action, helping you make decisions not just with your heart, but with your head and your future in mind. Pause before reacting. In today's fast-paced world, we're taught to react quickly, instinctively, and sometimes without thinking. But reacting isn't always responding. There's a big difference. A reaction is immediate and emotional. A response is thoughtful and intentional. The 10-10-10 rule encourages you to hit pause before making a decision or saying something you might regret. That pause is everything. It's where growth lies. That single moment of silence between your emotional trigger and your response can completely alter the outcome of a situation. Whether you're arguing with someone you love, responding to criticism, or making a financial decision, pausing allows you to center yourself. It allows emotion to settle and logic to rise. That pause doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. Emotional maturity is learning to sit in discomfort without letting it dictate your choices. The 10-10-10 rule builds a strength by training you to pause, reflect, and choose your response. Perspective is power. When you're deep in a problem, it can feel like the whole world is caving in. That's what emotional intensity does. It shrinks your vision. But the 10-10-10 rule stretches your sight line. It forces you to gain perspective. What feels like a catastrophe now may look like a lesson in hindsight. You begin to ask, will this still matter a year from now? That kind of thinking grounds you. It lifts you out of survival mode and puts you into strategic mode. Perspective lets you see not just what's happening, but why it might be happening for you instead of to you. It helps you realize that not all battles are worth fighting, not all words are worth saying, and not all feelings are meant to lead. This rule makes you bigger than your current moment. And when you're bigger than the moment no longer controls you. That's power, true power. Short-term Veslam thinking. Most of our problems come from short-term thinking. We choose what feels good now over what's good for us later. We eat the junk food, send the angry text, procrastinate on the goal because our brains are wired for comfort in the now. The 10-10-10 rule breaks that cycle. It's a mirror that reflects the truth. Is this choice a sugar rush or soul fuel? In 10 minutes, giving into temptation might feel good. In 10 months, it could cost you your health, your peace, or your progress. In 10 years, it might change the entire trajectory of your life. This rule makes you pause and weigh consequences across time. It teaches you to delay gratification, not deny it. It builds discipline. It turns knee-jerk decisions into well-crafted strategy. You start living with purpose instead of pressure. And that shift from short-term relief to long-term gain can redefine your entire life. Regret prevention. Regret is one of the heaviest emotions a person can carry. It's not just about what you did. It's about what you could have done differently. The 10-10-10 rule acts like emotional armor against regret. It forces you to examine whether this decision is one your future self will respect. Regret is almost always born from impulsive choices, things said in anger, moments given to fear, or opportunities lost to hesitation. When you slow down and ask yourself how you'll feel about this down the line, you get clarity. You realize that some bridges shouldn't be burned, that some chances shouldn't be passed up. The rule doesn't guarantee a perfect life, but it guarantees a more thoughtful one where you walk away from hard choices knowing you didn't just follow your feelings, you followed your wisdom. And that's how regret is replaced with peace. Builds emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence isn't about avoiding emotions. It's about understanding them and choosing how to respond. The 10-10-10 rule trains this like a muscle. You start becoming more aware of your emotional patterns. You notice when you're triggered, when your ego wants to react, when your fear wants to run, and then you pause, you ask the questions, you breathe through it, and in that space, emotional intelligence is born. Over time, you develop self-control, empathy, and resilience. You begin to understand not just what you're feeling, but why. You communicate better, you forgive faster, you see through anger into pain. The 10-10-10 rule becomes more than a decision-making tool. It becomes a life compass. It teaches you to lead yourself with grace and respond to life with depth. And in a world driven by reaction, that kind of emotional maturity is rare and powerful. Saves relationships. Think about the last time you hurt someone you love, not because you didn't care, but because you spoke too soon, acted too fast, or assumed too much. That's where most relationships break, not in massive betrayals, but in small moments of unchecked emotion. The 10-10-10 rule gives you a second chance in those moments. It reminds you to ask, will I still be angry in 10 days? Will this disagreement matter in 10 months? Will I regret how I handled it in 10 years? This perspective saves countless relationships, romantic, familial, and professional. It teaches humility. It teaches you to prioritize love over ego, connection over being right. It stops you from saying words that can't be unsaid. And in doing so, it deepens trust, softens pride, and makes you a better partner, parent, friend, and leader. It reminds you peace is often one pause away, guides career and life decisions. Life is full of crossroads, job changes, big moves, financial risks, relationship shifts. And the pressure to get it right can feel paralyzing. That's where the 10-10-10 rule comes in. It doesn't make the decision for you, but it provides a framework. It lets you measure not just the urgency of a choice, but its weight. If you're thinking about quitting your job, ask, will I feel relief or regret in 10 months? What will this choice do to my long-term goals in 10 years? It grounds you in your own values and vision, not just your emotions. You begin making moves with foresight instead of fear. The rule reminds you that what's easy now might be costly later, and what's hard now might be the key to your future. That's how people stop wandering and start building lives with direction. Lives built on purpose, not pressure. Turns pressure into power. Pressure is part of life. It's in the deadlines, the expectations, the unknowns. But pressure doesn't have to break you, it can build you. The 10-10-10 rule transforms pressure into perspective. When you're overwhelmed, you ask, will this still stress me in 10 days? Will it matter in 10 months? That mindset shift calms the chaos. Suddenly, the mountain becomes a molehill or a mission. You start turning panic into planning. You're no longer paralyzed by urgency. You gain control not over what happens, but over how you carry it. And that's where real power lives, not in controlling life, but in mastering your response to it. This rule doesn't remove pressure, but it reshapes it into fuel. You realize I don't have to react to pressure, I can rise under it. It's simple but profound. Don't let the simplicity of the 10-10-10 rule fool you. In a world full of hacks, apps, and complicated strategies, this rule is a breath of fresh air. It's minimal, it's memorable, and most importantly, it works. You don't need a therapist or a time machine to gain perspective. Just 3 time frames, 10 minutes, 10 months, 10 years. That's all. It's simple enough to use in the heat of a fight and profound enough to guide life-changing decisions. This rule becomes a quiet voice in the back of your mind, a compass that turns chaos into clarity. It's the kind of wisdom you pass down, the kind that keeps you anchored when storms come. It reminds you that most of your problems don't need fixing, they need reframing. And with the 10-10-10 rule, you don't just change decisions, you change direction, you change outcomes, you change your life. When you walk out of this room today, remember this: your life is a series of decisions, and the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your decisions. The 10-10-10 rule isn't just a mental trick, it's a game changer. It gives you the power to pause before you react, to gain perspective when everything feels urgent, and to make decisions with the kind of foresight that most people don't have. In a world where we're taught to rush, to act, to react, this rule slows you down, gives you clarity, and ensures that every move you make is a step toward your best self. It keeps you from breaking what you can't fix, from burning bridges that you'll need to cross later. So, the next time you're faced with a tough choice, big or small, don't just react, pause, reflect, and respond. Ask yourself how you'll feel in 10 minutes, 10 months, and 10 years. Because when you choose with the wisdom of time, you don't just make better decisions, you create a better life. That is the power of the 10-10-10 rule.